They say family businesses are built on trust. But what happens when that trust is misplaced? I'm Camille Turner, 32 years old, MBA in strategic management, and until last spring, I was the one quietly running the engine behind Turner & Co., the firm my father founded, and I practically rebuilt from the ground up. For over a decade, I devoted everything to that company, my time, my youth, my weekends, and frankly, my identity, my younger sister Veronica. She was the free spirit, the PR girl with a flair for brunch meetings, Instagram strategy, and rotating career interests. She never showed real interest in Turner & Co. until her engagement to Thomas Whitman, son of a venture capital family. Suddenly, legacy mattered. I should have seen it coming. At a Sunday dinner pot roast, wine, soft jazz in the background, my father announced he was handing over the entire company to Veronica. Not 50-50. Not even a board seat for me. Just handed it to her like a graduation gift. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I submitted my resignation the next morning, packed my degrees, and walked out with my name intact, leaving behind the empire I helped build. 2 weeks later, they lost Caldwell Tech, our biggest client, an $8 million contract that had kept the company afloat for years. Then my father called me, not to apologize, but to ask for help. What I said next didn't come from spite. Why? It came from clarity, from value, from knowing who I am, finally. This is not just a story about betrayal. It's a story about reclaiming power, rewriting terms, and never again asking for a seat at a table I helped build. And yes, I did return, but on my terms. My earliest memories don't smell like crayons or peanut butter sandwiches. They smell like toner ink and fresh-cut paper. I grew up in the back office of Turner & Co., curled up in the corner of a conference room while my dad paced, pitching to clients with a fire in his eyes that lit up the whole room. While other girls were playing dress-up, I was learning about brand audits and quarterly forecasts. Dad started the company when I was 6. At first, it was just him, a folding desk in our garage, and a giant whiteboard that bled into the laundry room. He named it Turner & Co. because he believed naively, maybe that one day there'd be a & Co. worthy enough to carry the name beside his. I think part of him hoped that would be me. I never needed convincing. Business fascinated me. Numbers were my second language, strategy my favorite game. In high school, while my friends joined debate or theater, I was interning at Turner & Co., filing paperwork, running coffee, listening to how deals were made in real time. I went on to study business at Wharton, then earned my MBA in strategic management full scholarship. When I came back home, I didn't ask for a title. I asked where I could help. Dad made me start from the bottom entry-level analyst, $42,000 a year, no corner office, no privileges. And I respected that. For 5 years, I earned every promotion, every bonus. I redesigned our client onboarding process, launched our first international campaign, and negotiated a long-term contract with Caldwell Tech that single-handedly doubled our revenue. By the time I was 30, I had built Turner & Co. into something real profitable, respected, stable, and yet, despite all that, I still remember the first time my sister Veronica walked into the office like she owned the place. She wore 6-inch heels and a white silk blouse that screamed influencer instead of strategist. Dad lit up the moment he saw her. "You two should collaborate," he said brightly, not noticing how she flinched at the word collaborate. She stayed for 30 minutes, complimented the artwork, and left without asking a single question about our clients. I didn't mind at the time. Veronica and I had always been different. She had a degree in media arts and a passion for public speaking. She'd bounced from job to job event planning, PR stints, influencer management. Meanwhile, I had been leading business development meetings with CFOs and CTOs from Fortune 500 companies. Still, every time she dropped by the office, Dad would beam like she'd just won a Nobel Prize. I chalked it up to family dynamics, harmless favoritism. I thought, Maybe he felt guilty for how much of his attention the company had taken from her during childhood. But now I realized that those moments weren't harmless at all. They were the breadcrumbs leading to the bigger betrayal. Because while I was building systems, developing client relationships, and restructuring entire departments, my father was quietly scripting a different succession plan, one that had nothing to do with merit and everything to do with the illusion of legacy. And I was too loyal, too trusting, too focused to see it. Until that Sunday dinner, but we'll get there. For now, all you need to know is this: I didn't just work at Turner & Co. That company raised me. And one day, it chose someone else. It was supposed to be just another family dinner. Mom texted us a few days earlier Sunday night. 6 p.m. Pot roast and Cabernet. No excuses. She always added the wine pairing as if that made it more inviting. I didn't question it. We'd been doing monthly dinners since I moved back from grad school. They were usually harmless, Veronica arriving fashionably late in another designer dress, me in tailored slacks straight from the office, Dad already half a glass deep by the time I walked in. That night, everything felt rehearsed. The dining room was lit warmer than usual, the table set with Mom's nicer china, the crystal glasses pulled out like it was Christmas Eve. Even the music, instrumental jazz, soft but oddly formal, set a different tone. Veronica and Thomas arrived together, arm in arm, all smiles. Thomas Whitman, her fiancé, was the son of a local investment magnate. Old money, private equity, trust funds that spanned generations. He shook my hand with that effortless charm rich men learn at boarding school, calling me Cam like we were already siblings. "I've heard so much about your leadership at Turner," he said, flashing a smile that felt just slightly too polished. "Veronica says you basically run the place." I nodded, non-committal. I didn't like where the energy was heading. After dinner pot roast, mashed potatoes, and small talk that felt like fencing, Dad cleared his throat. "We have something to share," he began, his voice rich with performative gravity. Mom reached for his hand. Veronica beamed. My stomach turned before he even said it. "I've been thinking a lot about succession planning," he said, swirling his wine. "I'm not getting younger, and I want to make sure Turner & Co. continues in the family with the right vision." I looked up from my half-finished glass. This was it, the moment I had imagined in so many versions. Finally, acknowledgement. Finally, the passing of the torch. "So," he continued, "your mother and I have decided we'll be transferring full ownership of the company to Veronica." The room fell silent. For a moment, I thought I had misheard, that there was a second half to that sentence he hadn't gotten to yet, that maybe I'd misunderstood his use of the word ownership. But no, Veronica, who had never sat through a budget review, never handled a client escalation, never even asked how we priced service tiers, was now the sole owner of the business I had built with him for over a decade. "I just think," he added, "that Veronica brings a fresh perspective. And with Thomas's background in investment and her natural talent for branding, they're poised to take Turner & Co. into a new era." Veronica laughed softly, placing her hand on Thomas's arm. "I already have so many ideas," she said. "Honestly, the whole identity feels a little stiff. I think we need to pivot to something more lifestyle-driven. The future is authenticity and aesthetic alignment." Aesthetic alignment. I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. The identity she called stiff was the same one I spent 6 months redesigning a rebrand that won 3 industry awards and brought in $4 million in new contracts. And then came the final blow. "Of course," Dad said, turning to me. "We'd love for you to stay on. Your expertise is invaluable. Maybe mentor Veronica during the transition?" "Mentor her?" I smiled. Not a real smile. The kind of smile you offer someone before walking out of a burning building. "I'd like to speak with you both in private," I said. And without waiting for a response, I stood up and walked toward the study, because I knew then this wasn't succession. It was erasure. Dad's study still smelled like leather and cedar wood. Same mahogany desk, same company plaques lining the wall, many of them with my name etched underneath in gold. Marketing excellence, client retention, regional growth, awards I had bled for. They followed me with quiet authority as I entered the room. My parents trailing behind like this was a negotiation. It wasn't. "Camille," Honey Mom began, her voice already dipped in soft diplomacy. "No," I said, turning to face them both. "Don't soften it. Just explain it to me." Why Dad stood behind his desk, hands clasped like he was preparing for a shareholder meeting. "Camille, you've done an excellent job. No one denies that, but Veronica needs this opportunity." I blinked. She's trying to find her place," Mom added, stepping beside him. "You're already established. You've always been the strong one. Strong, capable, the one who didn't need praise. Apparently." I nodded slowly, pressing my thumb against the edge of his desk to keep my voice from trembling. "So because I've proven myself, I get nothing. And because Veronica hasn't, she gets everything." "It's not nothing," Dad said defensively. "You'll still have a significant role." "As what, her assistant?" "That's not fair," he snapped. "No. What's not fair is working 70-hour weeks, skipping holidays, building something from the ground up only to be told it's not mine, not even partly. Just a job, which we paid you for," he replied, almost too casually, and that did it. It wasn't just a dismissal of my work. It was a reduction of my worth. 10 years of dedication, late-night crisis management, strategic innovation, building relationships with CEOs across the country summarized into a salary. "Caldwell Tech works with us because of me," I said, the words sharp. "They don't take Veronica's calls. They barely take yours. They trust me." Dad waved his hand like he was shooing away facts. "Clients adapt. They work with the company, not individuals." I actually laughed at that short, hollow, exhausted. "No, Dad. They work with who they trust. And I've spent years earning that." He didn't answer. Mom looked away. There was a long silence, the kind that settles in when love has been eclipsed by disappointment too heavy to speak through. I took one last look around the office. My office, in spirit if not in name. And then I made the only decision that still belonged to me. "I'm resigning," I said. Mom gasped. "Camille, don't be dramatic. This isn't drama. This is clarity," I said quietly. "I won't train someone to take credit for what I built. I won't be sidelined in a company I gave my life to." Dad's jaw clenched. "This is a family business, no," I interrupted. "It's a business you've chosen to treat like a family prize. And I'm no longer interested in playing along." I left them standing there in that room full of my work, my wins, my sweat, and walked out the front door without another word. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in my apartment, surrounded by silence and strategy binders, wine glass untouched. The betrayal echoed louder than I expected. But so did the calm. Because for the first time in my adult life, I wasn't running their company. I was finally free to build my own. I dropped the resignation letter off before sunrise. 2 pages, crisp, professional, devoid of drama. I outlined a detailed transition plan, attached a USB with client notes and project timelines, and slid the envelope under Dad's office door. I didn't need to say goodbye. Anyone who mattered would understand. By the time the rest of the office trickled in, I was already packing the framed certificates and photos off my shelves. I kept my composure. No theatrics, just efficient movements like clocking out of a life I'd mastered but no longer belonged to. At 10:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. "Dad, Camille, this is unexpected. Please don't do anything rash." "My decision is final. I didn't expect him to beg, and I didn't need him to. At noon, I had one final meeting, Caldwell Tech's quarterly review. I owed that much to Martin Caldwell. After all, the $8 million contract we'd held for 6 years didn't come from flashy branding or viral campaigns. It came from trust. Martin shook my hand with that signature directness. Heard rumors. He said, "Are you still with Turner & Co.?" I smiled. Technically, for the next 2 hours. We reviewed strategy projections, discussed expansion into Midwestern markets, and outlined next quarter's benchmarks. Not once did I break character. When we finished, he paused at the door. "You're the only one I trust to tell me the truth," he said. "That's why we stayed with you instead of going national." That sentence both affirmed me and gutted me. Back at my desk, I found Thomas Grant, our marketing director and my right hand for 5 years, standing silently at the door. "This is about Veronica, isn't it?" he asked. I didn't lie. "I'm pursuing other opportunities." He nodded, jaw clenched. "Half our major accounts are here because of you. Just so you know." Then came Sarah Jensen, one of the senior account leads. "We're all confused," she said. "No one was prepared for this." I softened. "You'll be okay," I said. "You're talented. All of you." But even as I said it, I wasn't sure I believed it anymore. At 3:00 p.m., Veronica arrived. She walked past my office without a glance, her heels clicking like punctuation on the end of a chapter. Behind her came a decorator, a florist, and 2 maintenance guys. Within 20 minutes, they were rearranging the lobby, hauling out my desk, choosing new wall colors like this was a boutique opening. The message was clear: erase everything Camille built. And she didn't even wait until I was gone. By the end of the day, her first company-wide email landed in everyone's inbox, effective immediately. Turner & Cohen will embrace a new creative-first culture, with flexible hours and idea incubation zones. Rigid deadlines are being reconsidered to make space for inspired innovation. No mention of client expectations? No understanding of our B2B clients who expected deliverables, not vibes? As I handed over my keycard and signed the HR exit forms, I looked down one last time at the building that had raised me. It already felt foreign. As I stepped into the elevator, I heard someone stand up, then another. A soft ripple, quiet but intentional, as employees stood along the hallway in silence. No applause, no speeches, just respect. And that almost broke me. I nodded once, grateful but aching. Then I walked out the front door, this time not as a daughter, not as an executive, but as a woman who chose herself. For the first time in 10 years, I woke up without an alarm. No client meetings, no 8:00 a.m. check-ins, no inbox stacked with urgent subject lines. I sat in my kitchen in silence, the morning sun creeping across my counter like it didn't recognize me either. At first, the stillness felt intoxicating. I made coffee slowly, opened a book I'd been meaning to finish for 2 years, even took a walk with no destination. But by day 3, the quiet became unsettling. When you've been operating at full throttle for a decade, stillness doesn't feel like rest. It feels like absence. Still, I refused to regret my decision. I had savings. I had options. Recruiters had already started circling like vultures, respectful ones. But vultures all the same. Brewer and Flint offered a partner track role in corporate strategy. Meridian wanted to create a position just for me. Even Apex Strategies reached out with an offer to head their new West Coast division. But I wasn't ready. Not yet. Instead, I opened a new spreadsheet, my own this time, labeled it Boutique Agency Model, Q1 Feasibility. Columns for cost estimates, potential client leads, competitor analysis. For the first time, I wasn't building someone else's vision. I was considering my own. That's when the first whisper reached me. Marcus Chin, our longtime graphic designer, called from a personal number. It's chaos. Camille, he said, skipping hello. Veronica, apparently, had let go of our accounting firm after they questioned her personal expenses. She canceled our structured Monday strategy meetings and replaced them with creative jam sessions. The development team was livid. The client services department was confused. Projects were stalling, timelines ignored. I winced but said nothing. Then came the bigger blow. Caldwell Tech, Marcus said, voice tight. She handled their quarterly review herself. My pulse spiked. How'd it go, I asked, even though I already knew. She pitched a brand new campaign. No data, no market analysis, called your strategic alignment process outdated. Said we were moving toward intuitive engagement flow. I closed my eyes. That wasn't even a thing. She dismissed Martin's concerns. Marcus added. Told him his brand needed a younger, fresher identity, more storytelling, less logic. For a real estate conglomerate that specialized in medical complexes and industrial parks. She lost him, didn't she? Not officially. Marcus hesitated, but he walked out early. Told her, if Camille ever returns, have her call me. I sat still, not angry, not gloating, just deeply sad. Because Caldwell Tech wasn't just a contract. It was a relationship I had nurtured for years. Through mergers, market downturns, leadership changes. Martin had once emailed me on Christmas Eve asking if I thought his new messaging came off too aggressive. I'd responded in 12 minutes. Now it was gone. The next morning, another call came, this time from Thomas Grant. It's official, he said grimly. Martin didn't renew. $8 million. Gone. I exhaled slowly. She tried to backpedal, but it was too late. He added. He handed her his card. Told her again. If Camille ever returns. The fallout was swift. 2 more clients scheduled urgent meetings to review our partnership, which was corporate speak for we're shopping elsewhere. 3 staff members quit. One of them was Sarah Jensen. She blamed the team. Sarah told me over the phone. Said the strategy failed because we didn't support her vision. She even snapped at the receptionist for not being welcoming enough to legacy clients. I rubbed my forehead. How are the rest of you holding up updating our resumes? She replied. Blunt. Some of us are hoping you'll land somewhere fast. If you build something new, Camille will follow. I didn't answer. Not yet. Because at that moment, I still wasn't sure if I wanted to rebuild something new or return to claim what should have been mine all along. The first text came at 8:47 p.m. Dad, Camille, we need to talk. It's important. I didn't respond. At 9:22, another, please call me back. This affects the livelihoods of many people who care about you. By 10:15, I was in bed, rereading an article on early-stage agency funding models. When my phone rang, my father's name lit up the screen. The last time he called me directly, it was to offer a ceremonial consulting role after giving my job to someone else, against my better judgment. I answered. Hello. His voice was unfamiliar, not commanding or dismissive like it used to be. It was strained, deflated. Camille, he said, then paused. I wouldn't call if it wasn't absolutely necessary. I waited. We lost Caldwell Tech. I know, I said. You probably also lost Clearwater and Bradshaw. They were watching. They always are. Another pause. What you may not know, he continued slowly, is that 3 other clients are reviewing their contracts. We're projecting a 70% revenue collapse in the next 2 months. If things don't stabilize. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Turner & Co. was dying. Quickly. What does Veronica think I asked? Unable to hide the edge in my voice, he hesitated. She's overwhelmed? She wasn't prepared? No kidding, I made a mistake, he said quietly. We made a mistake. I sat upright. It wasn't an apology, not yet. but it was the first true admission of failure I had ever heard from him. "What are you asking me to do? Come back," he said. "Help us stabilize the situation, retain whoever we can, reassure the clients, fix what we've broken." I stared into the darkness of my room, and in return I asked, "I'm not coming back to be a safety net. We're open to discussing terms." "No," I said firmly. "Not discussing. You're prepared to offer—" Silence. "Finally," he said, "we'd consider granting you a significant equity stake. 20%. I exhaled, slow and measured. 20%, I repeated. "For salvaging a burning building I built from the foundation up, Camille. This isn't about ownership. It's about saving people's jobs. It's about both." I interrupted. "And if you think 20% is generous, you haven't learned a thing from this collapse." He sighed, audibly exhausted. "What would it take to bring you back?" I didn't answer right away. Because this wasn't just about rescuing a brand. It was about rewriting the power structure that let this happen in the first place. "I'll think about it," I said at last. "But next time we meet, I won't be speaking as your daughter. I'll be speaking as a negotiator. And I will not compromise my value." There was a pause. "Understood," he said finally. "And thank you for taking the call." After we hung up, I didn't feel vindicated. I felt clear. The girl who once begged for recognition had left the building. The woman who remained was ready to set the terms. And for the first time, they would listen. We met at Westbrook Coffee the next afternoon, just after 1. I arrived 15 minutes early and claimed a quiet corner booth with full visibility of the room. I brought nothing but a legal pad, a black coffee, and a pen. It was all I needed. At exactly 1:00 p.m., my parents walked in. Dad, looking gaunt and 5 years older, Mom, tightly wound in pearls and tension, and Veronica, eyes puffy but still clinging to her composure like a silk scarf caught in a storm. "Thank you for coming," Dad said, sliding into the seat across from me. I didn't smile. "Let's be clear, this isn't a family chat. This is a negotiation. One chance. I'm not here as your daughter. I'm here as the only person who can stop the bleeding." Veronica rolled her eyes. "So dramatic." "Veronica," Mom hissed. I ignored them both. "Before we talk terms, I want a current snapshot. Financials. How bad is it?" Dad hesitated, then admitted, 3 major clients gone, 2 more wavering, a 70% projected revenue decline over the next 60 days. If we don't act fast, layoffs begin next month. "And you, Veronica?" I asked, turning to her directly. "What's your read on the situation?" She stiffened. "The team hasn't embraced the changes. They've been resistant from day one, and the clients weren't ready for my vision." "Clients don't exist to validate your vision," I replied. "They exist to be served with competence." She flushed red, but said nothing. I took a slow sip of coffee, then laid my pen down. "These are my terms." The table stiffened. "First 51% controlling ownership, full decision-making authority. I will not fix this company only to be overruled again. Non-negotiable." Dad's face darkened. "You're asking to own the company?" "No," I said coolly. "I'm asking to save it." "You can't do that from the passenger seat." "And what happens to me?" Veronica snapped. "You expect me to just disappear?" I met her gaze head on. "No. My second condition is that you step into a non-executive role, Director of Community Relations. You'll retain 15% equity. You're good with people, use that. But you're done with operations." She looked like I'd slapped her. But before she could protest, I added, "This is not personal. It's capacity. You're not equipped to lead. You proved that." And us Mom asked quietly, "You'll retain the remaining 34% equity jointly, but you remove yourselves from all operational control. You'll have board positions, receive updates, and attend quarterly meetings. That's it." Dad leaned back slowly. So we'd be figureheads in the company we founded. You'd be stakeholders. I said, in a company that will still exist because of me. Silence. Tension thickened. Then I leaned forward. And there's one more condition. We establish a formal board with 2 independent industry experts, no family bias, no emotion-driven decisions. All major strategic changes require board approval, including mine. Veronica scoffed. This is extortion. This is rescue, I said flatly. Or would you rather I take the offer on my desk from Apex Strategies and watch Turner & Co. burn from a penthouse? That shut her up. Dad stared at his coffee for a long moment. Then, quietly, we'll need time. 1 week, I said. If I don't have signed terms by then, I walk, and the company folds. Mom dabbed her eyes. Veronica stayed silent. But something shifted then, because for the first time since I was a child, they weren't deciding my worth. They were asking for it. The paperwork was signed 3 days later. 51% ownership, independent board, full operational control. Veronica transitioned out of the executive suite and into a redesigned community role. Mom and Dad kept their equity and their distance, and I walked back through the glass doors of Turner & Co., not as a daughter, not as a backup plan, not as an employee, but as the owner. The very next morning, I picked up the phone and called Martin Caldwell. He didn't even let me finish my introduction. Are you back in charge? He asked bluntly. Yes. Fully. Silence. Then good. We'll reinstate the contract. 3-month probationary period. But this time, it's your name on the dotted line. Agreed. By Friday. 2 more clients followed. By the end of the first month, Thomas Grant had returned as marketing director. Sarah Jensen emailed me personally to say, I'm staying because of you. I didn't need a parade. That was enough. The first 3 months were brutal. I rebuilt everything from the inside out: reporting structures, client communication protocols, internal workflow models. I hosted all-hands meetings weekly, looked every single team member in the eye, and promised one thing: clarity. We wouldn't chase shiny trends. We wouldn't gamble on aesthetics or intuition. We would lead with strategy. And it worked. By month 6, we'd recovered 4 out of 5 major accounts. Caldwell Tech not only renewed but expanded into a 10M contract with our guidance on their Asia-Pacific launch. Bradshaw Industries came back after I met their board personally. The team stabilized, morale lifted. Even Veronica found her footing. Surprisingly, she thrived in community outreach. She created a corporate social responsibility program, organized our first industry mentorship initiative for underrepresented students, and handled press events with a grace I hadn't expected. In the right role, she became an asset, not a liability. We weren't best friends, but we were finally on the same team. As for my parents, reconciliation came slower. Dad attended our quarterly board meetings, mostly silent at first. But gradually something in him softened. And at one dinner, just the 2 of us, no business talk allowed, he said, Your grandfather passed the family plumbing business to my brother, not me. I didn't fight it. Thought that was how tradition worked. I never realized I was repeating the same mistake until I nearly lost everything. It wasn't a full apology, but it was more than I thought I'd ever get. Mom apologized in quieter ways. A birthday card with a handwritten note. A call after I landed a new contract. An unexpected compliment at a family gathering. I see you, she said once. I really do. By the 1-year mark, Turner & Co. had not just survived. It had grown. We expanded into 3 new verticals. Our proprietary strategic alignment model, yes. The one they once called outdated was now licensed under IP protections and served as our brand signature. We recruited 2 powerhouse external board advisors who pushed us to evolve without compromising our core. But the biggest change I no longer asked for permission to be in the room. I no longer negotiated from a place of gratitude. I no longer mistook being indispensable for being valued. Because here's the truth. You can be the reason something succeeds and still be written out of the credits until you stop letting others hold the pen. That's what I learned. That's what I claimed. My story didn't end the day my father chose someone else to inherit the legacy. It began the day I walked away so that when I returned, I could own it. Not just the business, but my worth, my voice, my name.